want you to know what it feels like to keep all of this pain so concealed. Like I want out of this plane, I told my psych, you don't need to, you don't need to. I'm losing patience, living in damnation. I'm dark vibrations, singing incantations. It must sound like I'm mad, I'm never found to be glad. I'm working out of the math, the answer's always been sad, yeah. I'm a zero summation, lost in translation. Here's my resignation, from this life I'm not staying. My whole life's a passing fad. You'll remember the times we had, the times we had, yeah. All these pleasures my brain can't have, I want out, so please don't be sad. Give it up, cause I'm getting out. Don't be sad, you could let it out. All the shit I'm forgetting now. My whole life I've been checking out. All I said, you could send it out. Light it up, now I'm headed out. This is the end of my part now. We will be never apart, no. I'm losing patience, living in damnation. I'm dark vibrations, singing incantations. It must sound like I'm mad, I'm never found to be glad. I'm working out of the math, the answer's always been sad, yeah. Don't leave, I need you with me. Don't die, I need you alive. Don't go, don't leave me alone. You said, yeah. My entire life feels like one big mistake, and all these pills inhibit re-uptake. I can't arrive at any reason to wait. Take it one at a time, only take it one night at a time. And I don't care, cause I don't give, I take from this world so superficial and fake. In all your joys, I simply cannot relate. Take it one at a time, only take it one night at a time. I say goodbye, it's getting late now. Please don't cry, you'll know I made it out. Say goodbye before I fade out, before I fade out, before I fade out. I'm losing patience, living in damnation. I'm dark vibrations, singing incantations. It must sound like I'm mad, I'm never found to be glad. I'm working out of the math, the answer's always been sad, yeah. I'm a zero summation, lost in translation. Here's my resignation, from this life I'm not staying. My whole life's a passing fad. You'll remember the times we had, times we had, yeah. Let it out, all the shit I'm forgetting now. My whole life I've been checking out. All I said, you can send it out. Light it up, now I'm headed out.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the zoo. I am the Rusty Panda, and I am here for you. Today we got ChrisLCox on the show. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Hey there.
We don't say the L. The L is legendary, but it is silent. So just remember that.
That's what you do when somebody else already has your name on Twitch.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
That's why my Rusty Panda has two A's.
Mhm.
Well, awesome. So for all y'all who don't know Wiki Wednesday, we basically find a streamer. We go ahead through 15 things they like, 5 things they don't. We go through the Wikipedia rabbit hole and find out some things about the streamer and some things for ourselves. So let's get started. So I have graphic design up here. We had talked about this just because it's something that you do. And so I just wanted to, as much as you're willing to tell, let me know how you got started with graphic design and designing in photo. What'd you say? It was Photoshop and
PowerPoint, Photoshop, Illustrator.
right.
So the thing that makes me money is PowerPoint.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, my brain stopped, of course. So I don't know. I've always liked graphics, and when I got into kind of graphics through computers, and in the 80s, I found myself laid off. It was the 90s. I was looking around at temp agencies, and somebody says, "Can you do PowerPoint?" And at the time, I didn't, but I picked it up really fast and was able to get a temp job working for a defense contractor. So that kind of got me foot in the door there. From there, I was kind of a graphics designer at Intel for a little bit, doing graphics in tech manuals for them. And then my partner had to come to New York. So in the 90s, we moved to New York,
Okay.
where once again I found myself out there looking for work, and I was able to pick up jobs in investment banks doing PowerPoint and Microsoft Word.
Okay. Hold on one second.
So
Galvos, can you get the bot, please?
sorry to bother you, but do you mind stomping on me? Yes.
Right, right.
No, not at all. We would be
No,
glad
it's
to stomp on you.
fine. Yeah. um, Perfect. Thank you, babe. Okay, so your partner moved from New York or to New York?
We moved to New York. We're
Okay.
from California.
Oh, okay. So that's a big change.
It was.
So tell me about New York. Tell me
So,
about. Are you still there?
uh, yeah, we are still in New York. We're in the Mid Hudson Valley. So
Nice.
it's for the longest time I commuted down to the city.
Wow.
So it was like 2.25 hours both ways, which a lot of it's on a train, so you can still watch DVDs and read books and things like that. So
Right.
it's not as horrible, but still,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
eats up a lot of your time.
I bet. Yeah, that sounds really frustrating.
Yeah,
But I mean, I assume that if you're doing it, then it's something that either you enjoy doing or is giving you a sense of monetary value.
I I don't hate it, but it does, and it pays the mortgage. So,
Right. Right.
hmm
Um,
and I've gotten good at it. So there's that.
that's good. That's what we hope for.
Right.
I know that when I started doing like music, I just hoped that I would get better at it, and it's like the more you practice at it, the better you get at it.
That's the basic thing. You have to pay attention to what you're doing too. You can't just like do it over and over. Well, I mean, you get a little bit better, but if you pay attention to what you're doing and what makes it better,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's how you kind of grow.
Yeah, and so the stuff that you're putting on PowerPoints, you said you were working for a certain. Um,
So
Go ahead.
yeah, I work for investment bankers.
Okay.
So they do they're they are like real estate agents for companies. Is basically in the ballpark of what they do. They know industries, and they can take a company and they can figure out who wants to pay money for to purchase this company, or if a company is looking to buy another company, they can help that company through a process. So that's more or less what this investment bank I generally work with does.
Okay.
And then so they put together presentations for various things, and I help organize that stuff on a page so it looks nice and professional,
I
and sometimes visually appealing, so that you don't fall asleep all the time going through these documents,
There you go.
which you'll probably do anyhow, but still.
It's PowerPoint, so
But exactly.
yeah. The When I started doing PowerPoint and I had to do it for my schooling,
Mm,
and I learned one of the main things is that you don't want to put too many words on the page.
right. Bankers don't know that.
Yeah, they just want to give you all the
It's like
information.
sometimes I get the feeling white space scares them. Oh
Yeah.
no, oh no, there's too much white space there. Can we fill this with information?
Or you put it
We're
with
losing an opportunity.
what are those called? Those old pictures. Oh, they had a name. The clip arts.
Oh,
You
right.
put the clip arts on there, and that way it fills up the white space.
Exactly. hmm
um,
And, and then they feel comfortable and they're going, whew. I can show this to people now.
right, right.
hmm
Um, yeah, PowerPoint has some neat tools on it. It really
It,
it's gotten a lot better.
yeah. Once upon a time, we used to do a lot of documents in Word, and these days, I don't recall the last time we actually did a document for, what we do in Word.
Hmm.
Other than I think they still do for like legal stuff, agreements, non-disclosure agreements, or um, contracts and things like that.
Right.
But for the marketing, more or less, what it is marketing materials describing the company. It's the materials that they have management presentations where if you the management team will then pitch to particular companies. So they'll do that on screen, and then the PowerPoints is what they show, and it's the materials you walk away with.
So you're the man behind the curtain. You're the one
Kind of
driving
like
all
it.
this.
Although all the bankers seem to know PowerPoint now when they come to the company, because apparently in college it's one of those skills I guess you get these days.
Yeah, they had this book. I mean, it was big. And
Hmm.
you were able to learn Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and something else. I don't remember. It might have been like OneNote. And you had to like it was an online course, so I did it from my home, and you had to click through this program that was simulating Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or
Oh,
whatever, and
hmm,
you had to get correct with how you do things. So it was very interactive, and that's how I learned a lot of PowerPoint and a lot about Excel. I
right,
I do a lot in Excel.
yeah. Well, all the bankers know a lot more Excel. I mean, they have to. They live in Excel basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I did an entire database in Excel once for my one of
hmm.
my old jobs, and they like charts, graphs, everything, and it was all right there in a database, and we needed to get like a database that wasn't wasn't Excel, but
Hmm.
yeah.
So that's sort of what I do for a living. It pays the mortgage.
And what's crazy is that I was looking and it said, where are we at? My scroll. May 22nd, 1990. So the release
Okay.
is 33 years old.
Hmm. Well,
And
I
how long have you been doing it?
since the '90s, so not not too far off from there.
That's
I can't
crazy.
I can't remember the exact date, but I want to say like I don't know. I would estimate like 93 or 94, somewhere in there. Is when I
Understood.
first learned PowerPoint.
Yeah, acquisition of Microsoft in 1987 and 1992. And then all about Silicon Valley, and that's basically part of Microsoft since 1993.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's crazy. And so, the fact that computers in the early 90s could handle something like
Hmm.
PowerPoint, where you can put pictures and data and all of that stuff, how has it
Yeah,
changed for you?
I don't recall. I think it's just gotten easier to a certain extent. The computing power has certainly gotten better. So,
Yeah.
but it's funny. I just don't really have the memories of how different it was then as it versus now. Um,
Same as it
nope,
ever
it's
was.
gone. It's got feels like that. Hmm. I think PowerPoint's ability to bring in alien formats has gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of keep up with that as the web decides to make new graphic formats for whatever reason. They have kept PowerPoint up with that. Uh,
So the
I don't know.
presentations that you do, I imagine that you have to take the words and you have to make them less wordy. But do you
That's no, I usually don't do text editing. I just take the stuff and arrange it on the page.
got it? Okay.
So if I'm going to, because that's their messaging. So I generally, unless they have a real ask, unless they request me to, I generally don't go in there and start. I'm not. It's not my forte
Got
rewriting
it.
stuff. Mine's putting the stuff in a nice, I'm really good at lining things up nice and sharp, and you know, you could, somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, you can always kind of see stuff that's kind of a little bit haphazard, and
Mm-hmm.
things are different sizes, and boxes don't line up and stuff like that. So you
Yeah.
know, my job generally is to make sure that it looks professional, it's sharp, it's clean.
That's good. And that goes a long, long way. Like I said, the man behind the
Hmm.
curtain, because a good PowerPoint presentation that's sharp and clean can really sell if you're selling, really sell what you're
Yeah,
trying to say.
right. And
So
it certainly doesn't detract. So if you got a sloppy looking presentation, that can actually detract.
Right. Right, right, right.
Hmm.
So tell me what you do on stream then. I'm curious as far
So
as
on
your what you
Yeah,
do.
on stream I do 3D stuff. So I work a lot with a program called DAZ Studio, which allows users to take generally pre-made content. It's generally focused around human figures, and
Okay.
they have really nice looking human figures and tons of them that you can make look different ways, and you can sort of pose them up, get them dressed up, render really nice looking images of them, set them up in scenes with, in cities or, out in the country, wearing bikinis or, tuxedos or whatever you want.
Right. It's like
So all,
Sims.
it's kind of like The Sims, except you actually can specifically, The Sims, you can't actually put a person down and move their hand into just exactly where you want it. And you have some control. I remember. I haven't played The Sims honestly, but my partner has.
Mhm.
Um, so that's a little. So it's kind of like that, except much more precise.
Okay. And so tell me what
So
the name of the program is.
it's Daz Studio,
Desk Studio?
Daz DAZ.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's on your
Yeah.
list.
So
Okay.
yeah, I put that on the list
Mhm.
because. So what I do on stream is I generally make stuff to be used in Daz Studio. So a lot of Daz Studio users will just use the pre-made content. I'm one of those guys who makes the content.
Ooh.
So, and I use Blender and Marvelous Designer, which is an awful lot like a sewing simulator,
Mhm.
and another program, Substance Painter, which allows me to do the textures on the models.
Okay.
So, and you may have heard of Blender. Blender is like a
Is,
3D suite,
is
allows you to do
Blender
animation.
free?
Blender is free, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is probably and it's good. So
Right?
the first selling point, of course, is free. But on the other hand, if you're free and not good,
What's the
people
point?
are exactly. But Blender is free and it is relatively powerful and good, and it keeps they just keep evolving it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they make changes that drive you crazy that just seem to make not any sense at all, other than
Right.
just changes. But a lot of times it's just improvements to how things get done, and it's amazing how I don't know. It just feels like it gets better and better.
Yeah. And Nikki Nicole 3, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the zoo.
Oh,
Um
oh,
okay.
and hi, Elliot, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's our good friend Fakes. Um
Okay.
but yeah, okay, so DAS Studio, you're talking about Blender. How did you get started with this?
Um, I actually started. Okay, so this was around 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a program called Poser,
Okay.
which basically allows you to do sort of the same thing I just described. It initially was an artist's model program.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea behind that was, the old wooden models artists used to use to kind of pose to then be able to draw without having to spend a lot of money to get a model to come in for you. So Poser was kind of the early versions of that were just basically an old 3D model posing program for artists, but it kind of evolved into kind of what I described, the
Yeah.
ability the ability to get pre-made content in and then pose it and kind of change it. So I started with that, and eventually that company was a bit shaky. Daz originally made content for Poser, but I want to say in the middle aughts, Poser was looking really shaky, and Daz was scared because you're making program, you know that's your income. If that company
Right.
goes under, you're screwed.
Right.
So at that point, Daz said, we're going to make our own version of the posing program, and that's what Daz Studio ended up being.
Now you use DAS 3D or just DAS Studio?
Daz 3D is the company,
Okay.
and Daz Studio is actually the application for doing the posing stuff and the rendering stuff.
Okay. Really cool. And
So Daz 3D makes content that they sell that you can then use in the free program. It's basically the old razor and blades model. We'll
right.
give you the razor. Oh, you want blades?
Right. Right. That's a good analogy.
Hmm.
That's a good analogy. Fake says that Blender is a rough program to use. Used it for a bit while I was in Korea and went through some tutorials. It's very complicated, but if you know what you're doing, it could be used for many facets of media.
Yeah, and like anything, you got to sort of, if you're going to get good at it, you have to actually just take the time and keep at it.
Right.
Um, sometimes you find yourself hitting your head against the wall, and maybe you should just stop. But I think Blender, if you just keep at it and you are motivated, that's another thing. You have to have motivation
Mm-hmm.
to keep at it, either personal motivation or somebody's paying you.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. If somebody's paying you, you have much more motivation.
Exactly. Hmm. I really don't want to be learning this program, but on the other hand, I get a paycheck.
Yeah, exactly.
But with Blender, I was just motivated to do it for myself. So
Got it. And Security Guru Guy, I've used Blender for video editing as well as making graphics for videos. And by the way,
yeah,
thank you and
did.
for coming on in. Um, yeah, that's really cool. That's a really cool like niche I didn't even know about.
Mm-hmm. So I do make content, and I am selling some of it. It makes a little bit of money.
That's really cool. Yeah, and that too. Like if you can make a little money from it, just like Twitch, if you could just make you do it for
Right.
funsies, but if you can make a little
Mm-hmm.
money off of it, like why not?
Exactly.
Mhm. All right, so let's wind into some other things. So tell me what Gallivant is.
Gallivant was a short-lived musical television series. I'm
Ooh,
surprised you have you not heard of this.
I have not.
Oh, okay. This is a little quirky, uh, what it says right there, a musical fantasy comedy television series. It kind of like takes the sort of hero trope, going to save the princess and kind of turns it around. I thought it was really funny. I liked the music, um, and it lasted for a full 2 seasons.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's like
and
when
there's like,
Firefly came out and it only lasted a season and it was like the big
right,
thing.
it was actually kind of a surprise. I think, what does it say there? First is, and it's short too. So it's like 8 episodes and
Yeah,
then a 10
premiered
episode
in
second season.
2015, first season, 8 episodes, which aired over 4 weeks. The series renewed for a second season, 10 episodes, and then the series was canceled after 2 seasons, May 12th, 2016.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
And
Stream
so
Elements. That's really great information to know right now.
that's right. Oh, we're live now.
Yeah. Oh, they want to know if you have a URL that they can browse for your
Uh,
content. You don't have
yeah,
to. I just was
yeah.
curious if you had
Actually,
one.
I do have the Ko-fi page where I sell stuff.
Okay.
I do have an Instagram, which has been ignored for the last couple of months. So should I just drop those in?
Put it in Discord because I don't think it'll let you
Okay,
post a link.
okay. Let me see if I can remember my Ko-fi. Nope, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
Let's try this. Let's not post a link to my desk, to my back end. It will probably do you no good.
Security Guru guy, did your wife ever get into Glee and stuff? Is that the musical shows you're referring to, or is it more like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and such like
Is that
that?
is that a question for me?
No, Security
Oh
Guru
no,
guy.
his wife went through. Yeah, I liked Glee too. I used to watch Glee.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it unfortunately felt like it lost steam towards the end there.
Yeah, they really
What?
beat a dead horse by the end of it.
Yeah, it's the classic. They've graduated. Now what?
Right,
And they
exactly.
still are getting. They get renewed. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They've graduated and they still got renewed. So now they have to like write more stories, and you've already probably run out of ideas after 3 seasons.
Right. And what was I trying to think of? Smallville. He goes through 4 years of high school,
Oh,
and then
right.
like then what? Like, they make him in high
Mhm.
school for like a really long time, and he does not look like he would be a freshman. Like,
No. I mean, the dude was in his young 20s at the time.
right? Oh,
Uh,
Tom Welling is a
that
beautiful creature.
it ran for 10 seasons, though.
Oh yeah, it did. My dad and I were
Hmm.
obsessed with it for a while, and then I just
Oh,
dropped off, and I was like, I
that
can't.
was, yeah. I've watched it all except for maybe a few, the last half of the last season. I somehow never caught those.
Yeah. Okay, so did you post the link to Discord?
I have not yet. I gotta
Okay.
find your Discord. I'm in it somewhere, I imagine. Or maybe not.
You could just post it to the direct message.
Oh, okay. I can do that. Oh, yeah. Why don't we do that? There's the Kofi.
Okay. My Discord isn't link isn't up, but I can go ahead and send it to you, security guru guy. That's fine. Because my
And
OBS had to restart, so I had to start from scratch. Okay.
if I click on that thing, here's
Mhm.
the Instagram coming up. See, I distract real easy.
No, you're
Ooh,
good.
shiny.
Yeah. Okay, that, and
I,
then that's my Discord, and then Instagram, Insta. There we go. Yeah, pro streamer over here, fakes. So let's talk about Gallivant. We were talking about all sorts of musical TV shows and stuff.
yeah. So yeah, Gallivant was musical. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was humorous. It was kind of turns the thing a little on its head. Um,
The Bastard Child of Monty Python and the Princess Bride.
something like that. Yes. I imagine you might like it, but
I probably would.
yeah,
Hands.
my partner's not into musicals, so she never really. I tried to get her to watch it once, and I don't even know if we made it through one episode. Um,
Galvos isn't really into musicals, so
yeah,
when you're a musical
so
buff, like I lived in New Jersey, and so I was
mhm.
going up to New York City all the time to see musicals, and then I'm
Oh
like,
right.
I come out to
Hmm.
Missouri, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to watch this or watch that because of the musicals, and he's like, grown.
Bro. Hmm.
So I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. So it is. What do I want to say? I mean, it's not totally musical. Well, I mean, musicals. There's a lot of talking, and then there's musical numbers set throughout. You
Mhm.
know, two or three in an episode.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
don't know. I just really enjoyed that. A little shame that it didn't get. It wasn't bigger and it didn't get more popular.
Yeah, I
So
truly do hate that when you're like really into a show and then
yeah,
it's
and I'm
gone.
like Fire. Nobody else has ever heard of this. It seems apparently.
What, Firefly?
No, Gallivant.
Oh, Gallivant. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, it's like everybody's heard of Firefly now.
Right. You can still
It's like,
see this on Netflixy things. Let's see.
oh,
Let's
okay.
let's see streaming. Come on. Where do I stream Gallivant? It's on
Of course, maybe it's a
Hulu.
blessing. It was only 18 episodes, so sometimes you get the best quality from a series that way.
Yeah, it's on Hulu.
Okay,
So you can get it there. Um, okay,
which reminds me of Freaks and Geeks, which only lasted 14 episodes, but is an absolutely brilliant
I agree.
series. But I think it benefited from the fact it was canceled. They knew it was canceled before they had the last episodes shot, so they were able to write. They had these storylines going,
Right.
and they were able to take those and finish them up before by the episode 14 and tie it all up in a nice beautiful little package that I think um, you know really expanded why we love that show.
Yeah, and I agree. And there is a show called Magicians. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a
Mm-mm.
sci-fi show. It's beautiful. Um, and they tied it up in the most beautiful bow, and I love it. Like the other series that I feel like did this was Lucifer.
Mm.
So like there are shows out there that I believe that you have to go along for the ride, but they end up in a nice little bow. And then there's shows like Heroes, where
Right.
like you're really into it, and then they're just like writer strike. We
That was it. That
sorry.
was it. Uh-huh. I know.
Sorry.
It feels like more often than not they can't figure out a good way to end a series.
Mhm. They just want it
Um,
to keep going. They just keep wanting to renew it.
exactly. So, X-Files dragged on until, oh my God, oh, it's older sister again.
Right. And oh my god,
How,
it's SVU who has the
yeah.
longest, like one of the longest running
Hmm.
Law and Order, man. That's
So, yeah. So if you're lucky, you're like Breaking Bad and you get away with a decent, it wasn't fantastic, but it didn't suck. It
it
was
didn't
kind of
suck.
good.
It didn't suck.
It was enjoyable for the series. I never watched all of Game of Thrones, but I understand that last season was painful for a lot of fans.
Pretty brutal, yeah.
Mm.
And then there was, have you ever seen Weeds?
I have not, no.
Weeds
I've heard about it.
yeah, Weeds didn't end as well as Breaking Bad did. Let's just put
Mm.
it that way. They just kept
Okay,
dragging it on, and you were like, nah, this could be so good.
right.
Um,
So there's another thing on my list, Battlestar
I was
Galactica ran
just
for
about
five
to put
seasons.
that in. Yep.
Because that had a decent ending, but it wasn't great, and but it didn't suck, but it's kind of seemed appropriate for that series. I
2004.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know the so of course that's a reimagining of the old campy '70s show, which I of course as a kid watched because we were so starved for science fiction on television back then. We would watch anything. We watched Buck Rogers for crying out loud. If you have ever seen those,
No.
they are so horribly campy. But yet I watched all of them because that's what we got: Lost in Spaces and Buck Rogers and
Right.
Star Trek. Star Trek was the outlier for science fiction.
Yeah. By the way, hi Infozar and
Hey, Jeff.
security guru
And by the way,
guy.
welcome Security Guru guy.
Yeah, yeah. So what was Chris's contribution to Gallivant? We got off topic. Um, just that he was a real
Watch
big
it.
fan.
Watch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna find it on
It's a,
Hulu. I really am.
yeah, honestly, if you enjoy, actually, like you said, if you enjoy, say, Glee and The Princess Bride, um, the best of those, you might enjoy Gallivant.
Yeah.
So
So back to Battlestar Galactica. So why the reboot? Why?
I don't know. Somebody decided but they just took it at a hard, realistic uh, angle, and it worked. I think the pilot was okay, but then the first episode, I forget what it was like. It's like 88 or something. Was so tense and so gripping. It's like that episode right off the bat just grabs you, and I was hooked on the series for 5 years.
Wow. 4 regular seasons, ending its run in 2009.
Hmm.
So
And
two.
the acting is, look, you got Edward James almost and Mary McDonnell.
Yeah.
Um, they got quality actors who really knew how to act. They wrote really tense scripts. Um, I don't know what it's the stereotypical bad guys were just old killer robots previously. I have not watched The Expanse. We are. It's probably been said before. We are in a weird golden age of television, or actually, we were. I think streaming is doing weird things to that.
Mhm.
Um, but we get so many good quality shows, and I don't watch that much, so it's hard to
Yeah. I'm in
my
that boat
my
too.
my current watches have been mostly I try to watch most of the Star Wars and stuff. My partner loves the Great British Baking Show, so that's the reason why it's on the list.
Right.
So we've watched all of those. But Battlestar Galactica, I don't know, it was just good storytelling. I thought tense. From and then in the end, the bad guys were, like I said, was getting distracted so easily. So before they were just sort of these weird killer robots, out to destroy mankind. It was just evil. And then they just became much more sophisticated. There was like a whole backstory to them, even, and
Hmm.
why they were hunting humans down. So,
Yeah,
I
it's
know, much more.
it's really in depth. Ministries one, two, three, and four.
Yeah, but then there's these follow-on series, which I never caught because that's the way I am.
Right. So this was on the original Sci-Fi
Right.
network.
It's
Okay.
back in the day where I was burning DVDs. I would work graveyards, so I was burning the DVD while it was playing, and then I would watch it the next day when I got home.
Yes. That's great. November November 24th, 2007. It's called Razor. Um let me see here. Series of flashbacks reveals the chronicles of Battlestar Pegasus and its crew from the initial Cylon attacks of the 12 colonies up to its meeting with the Galactica, while Apollo's new EXO deals with the harsh reality of Admiral Kane's legacy. Chronologically, this fits into season 2 between the episodes The Captain's Hand and Downloaded. I was curious why this had its own thing.
I don't know.
1.72 million viewers. All right, let's see. He Hath Believe It in Me. That's 2008. 2.1 million viewers.
Yeah,
So the first, oh wow, and then of course the last one, 2.36 million. Wow. Interesting.
I don't even know if that's a lot anymore or not.
Um, I don't know. For
Yeah.
Sci-Fi Network, maybe. Um, yeah, perhaps.
Hmm.
But yeah,
And yeah,
I've heard a lot
but
of people liking Battlestar Galactica, and I
mhm.
never really got into sci-fi shows like space.
Mm, right.
But I know good things about it. Like I've only heard good things about it.
So, and I hear they're doing a reboot, so I'm not sure where
Oh,
that's going to end up at. They're
let me
supposed to,
see.
oh, I forget, one of the streaming services. The streaming services are driving me crazy.
Yeah.
There's too many. There's too many of them, and they all decided to raise their prices.
Series was followed by the prequel spin-off Caprica, and then another spin-off, Battlestar Galactica Blood and Chrome, was released in 2012 as a web series, 10-minute episodes that aired in 2013 on Sci-Fi as a released movie. Let me see if wider influence, awards and board games. That's pretty cool. The video games.
Yeah,
That's cool. I'm curious as to something coming up. You said that they're coming up with a.
there's supposed to be another reboot
Okay, let's find out. Let's do.
because why do something original if you could just? Although honestly, there's a lot of original stuff that does get made.
Alright, it's 20 years since the original Ministries. Peacock is looking to reboot the series again.
Oh, there it is, Peacock. Okay.
Um, they were saying there was a joke. I love it when they get spicy on Twitter X. And one of the things was um, HBO
That's
Max.
true.
HBO Max says we're gonna just become Max now, and
Right. I
and
know.
Peacock responds, "We're not gonna take away the first part of our name, but we're happy for you." I
Yeah.
was like, "That's such good marketing."
Uh-huh.
I
I
love
know.
it.
I signed back up for Max because I had HBO Max, but I wasn't really watching it and dropped it. But
Mhm.
they got the Barbie movie, so
Oh,
I had to. I wanted to watch that, so I signed up for Max for a month.
that was a great movie.
Uh, so of course I had to install a new app because now it's not HBO Max, it's Max.
Max.
So,
Yeah.
so you got to get the new app because we changed the name.
All your favorites are gone now because you have to get the
Mhm.
new app. Yeah.
That's right. So,
All right, so let's go into LA Story.
all right, LA Story. What is their tagline? I love LA Story. It's one of those movies I can just probably watch over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So, not sure if you've seen it, but the tagline is the first great comedy of the '90s.
Okay.
Um, and what is it? Steve Martin plays a goofy weatherman in LA,
Mm-hmm.
and is it's portrayed as the goofy, airheaded LA you might imagine,
Right.
LA being. But they then tie in this romantic comedy, somewhat slight mystic elements into it, and I don't know, I like it. I love it. It's funny.
Infozar seems to
Um,
like it as well.
yeah, I think this is one of Steve Martin's best works. He's not a great actor in this, but it is just, I think this is his film, written by and
Yeah.
starring, yep.
Yep.
So it's just like the comedy is really, he just keeps throwing it at you.
Right.
Not quite as fast as Airplane does,
Right.
but because Airplane is just, oh, we finished your joke, time for another one.
Yeah, it was nonstop.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
But he does, and he keeps putting these weird little twists on living in LA and everything, and it's, I don't know, I love that movie.
That's
You
epic.
know,
Yeah, that's a good choice.
El Polo di Mar. So it's the name of the hotel, which I think means chicken of the sea.
Oh gosh, that's great.
So
Um,
little things like that all throughout the movie.
you're right. Have you seen Only Murders in the Building with Steve Martin
I
and
have
Martin Short?
not. It would be the only reason I would want to get Hulu is to watch that.
Yeah. It's a great, and Selena Gomez, and you're like, oh, Selena Gomez, and then you're like, wow, Selena Gomez. Like, it was
Mm,
beautiful. I
hmm.
highly suggest if you get a chance to pirate it or something, but don't pirate
Pi-
things, guys. Don't
no,
do
don't
it. It's bad.
pirating is wrong. It's, mhm.
But
I
yeah,
don't know. When I cancel Max, maybe I'll pick up Disney and Hulu. I don't know.
yeah,
I'm I'm starting to move into that world where I have to like
pick and
stream something for
choose.
a month, cancel it, and then go to something else that seems that'll have content that'll keep me entertained for another month.
Yeah, and I think Hulu has some of the best stuff, like
I
variety.
I hear that my brother's got it, and he keeps telling me about all the stuff he keeps watching on there.
Oh, just use your brother's account. They're not locked down on
Just
passwords yet.
they're no Netflix.
Right. Man, I have not gotten Netflix since we lost it.
Oh, really? We
Yeah.
still have Netflix. I don't know. We still watch it.
Yeah, my
Um,
mom had it, and so we were using my mom's account. And as soon as it got locked down, I was
mm,
like, "Well, I guess we're not getting Netflix." We use my friend's Hulu account. Like we don't pay for streaming services. We don't watch much TV. We watch Twitch. That's our
okay,
TV.
right. That's the thing. Yeah, I keep thinking I'll watch a movie tonight, and then 2 o'clock rolls around, and I'm still on the computer with Twitch on one screen and doing other stuff on the other screen, and I'm going, oh, maybe tomorrow night.
Right.
So me and the partner do have TV time, but we usually end up watching stuff like The Great British Baking Show or Survivor, generally stuff that she can watch, and I don't mind.
Right. And let's go to the Grace British baking show. Bam. Okay. So tell me
Or the
what about this?
I don't know, it's just fun. It's funny how they can take people baking and make it kind of a tense competition, but it's not a killer competition. It's like contestants are generally wonderful, warm people. Usually, they're not like over competitive and trying to kill each other, like some of these other reality shows.
Right.
I I haven't really watched any of them, but I don't know if I want to. It's like the cooking shows where, they're screaming and they're all tense,
Chopped.
and I don't know. I guess,
Yeah, Chopped is a
but
Food Network show where they go up against each other. They have to use foods that
uh,
they supply them and they don't know. It could be like chicken, jello, ham hock, and they'll go ahead and make something out of it. And
right,
they get vicious with each other.
yeah. I saw a tattoo show that was kind of like that. A few episodes of that where,
Hmm.
they're competing with tattoos against each other each week. And it's funny. There was an art show that was running this format, which was just horrible.
Yeah.
Um, because what art's all about is like making and saying stuff, but now you're putting these artists from different medium and
Mm,
you're putting them in these competitions to create stuff in a medium that most of them aren't familiar with.
right.
And it was just insanely stupid, I thought. But it's like I don't
I get it, because like art is art. Like you can't, it's
Yeah.
whatever you want it to be. And to put people in a certain medium, like if I'm a painter and I'm doing graphic design, like that's
So, right. But on the Great British Bake Off, or as we call it here in the United States, baking show, because apparently Pillsbury has a trademark to Bake Off.
oh, okay,
I just learned that recently.
interesting.
It's a warm group of people coming together, cooking, and they're all generally supportive of each other, but they still all want to win. Um,
Right.
and then they have these hosts. So there's the judges, which are kind of good. But then you usually have these hosts, like yeah, what you're clicking on here. Um, Mary Berry and Paul Hollywood were the first two. Uh, I guess Paul Hollywood's famous for cookbooks or something. I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
And then Noel Fielding. Um, he's probably my favorite. Him and Matt Lucas.
Okay. Noah Fielding. Let me find his name. Hold on.
He's just above Matt there.
Oh, there we go.
So I liked him and Matt were probably my favorite hosts. Those two, I think they come from comic backgrounds,
Okay.
and I think most of their hosts are comics, except their most recent one, Allison Hammond. I think was a television host or something.
Okay.
Um, so they kind of will add the comic elements, um, and they also walk around and chat with the contestants while they're baking.
Okay, yeah, that's
So,
cool. And then he said,
hmm
so Mighty Boosh comedy troupe alongside Julian Barrett in the 2000s, but most recently is a co-presenter of the Great British Bake Off since 2017. Matt Lucas is an English actor, comedian, writer, and television presenter. So,
yeah, and
cool.
he was in the Alice in Wonderland movie with that Johnny Depp one.
Oh, yes, he looks so familiar. Tweedledee and Tweedledum, right?
Yep, yep, that's him.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Yeah, that's why he
I
looks so
had forgot
familiar.
he was in that, but I caught a little bit of that movie the other day and going, oh, I know that dude.
That was a good movie in its own
hmm
right.
Yeah.
It was different, and I think all the Alice in Wonderland movies are different in their own rights and our own art in their own rights.
hmm
Alice in Wonderland is no longer copyright, right?
No, it's been out of copyright for quite some time.
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah. Yeah.
I think it's 18th cent. Is it the 1800s? I want to say the
Let's
1800s.
let's find out.
Which,
Through the
yeah, you
Looking
got a
Glass.
Wikipedia right here.
Through the look, 1871.
Yeah, so that would have been out of copyright
Yeah,
long ago.
yeah, yeah.
I don't
I
even know.
love it.
I, yeah. I,
There was a show called Alice. Alice. Hold on. Alice is a sci-fi show.
okay. Because there was Alice that was a sitcom back in the 70s,
Yeah, it's Alice. Walt
but had
Disney.
nothing to do with Alice in Wonderland. She was a waitress in a diner.
Oh, okay. Alice, and then sci-fi. Let's just see what comes up here. Um, Mad. Okay, this guy. Oh my God, did he play the Mad Hatter? He played the Mad Hatter. Okay, so this is from Sci-Fi's Alice,
Oh, okay.
2009, and it is fantastical.
Hmm. Okay, that's on my list now.
Yeah, it is really, 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 really good.
And it's a
And
mini-series, so that's another thing is I don't know if I can watch series that are like 20 episodes long in a season anymore.
no, it's super
I feel,
small.
yeah, I feel spoiled with these 10 episode seasons.
No, there's
That's
just
just
two episodes in this one.
okay. That I
Yeah.
can digest.
Oh yeah. And like I said, the
Ooh,
Mad
Matt
Hatter is.
Brewer.
Wait, where?
Sorry, I'm
Uh,
looking at the starring
here you go.
Kitty
Yeah.
Kathy. Yeah,
Yeah. And
I
then
I love him.
this guy is he did great as the Mad Hatter. Just
Okay.
beautiful. Um, this woman is Katrina. Yeah, she. Oh my God, I didn't even realize she was on Grey's Anatomy, and she was the one who was Alice. Wow, it all connects.
Mm.
Tim Curry was in it.
Oh, geez, I love Tim Curry. Who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't?
Yeah, right. Um. So yeah, There
He's
was
the reason why you watch Legend, right?
Tim Curry's the reason that I got into Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on
I can
out,
see that.
I was a Tim Curry fan. That's the first thing I've ever seen him
Right.
in. It wasn't,
Well, was that the first thing he really did?
yeah, not Pirate
So,
Island or whatever it's called, the Muppets.
oh, the
Um,
no,
it's called Pirate. I don't Treasure Island. And
oh,
then
Muppets Treasure Island, right?
right.
So
Let me just look up Tim Curry. just um, yeah. Let's see. Charlie's Angels scary movie. So Annie in 1982. I didn't see that. Legend. I didn't see.
you
Wadsworth.
didn't see
Clue.
Legend
No, I did
or
not.
Clue?
I saw
Okay,
Clue. I've seen Clue. I just didn't see it until after I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show.
right.
Yeah.
So Legend is a beautiful movie with Tom Cruise totally miscast.
Mhm. Yeah.
And Tim Curry plays the devil or the demon, or I forget the actual name, but he's just brilliant in that.
Yeah, he played Captain Hook and Peter Pan and the Pirates.
Mhm.
Fern Gully, Duckman, Wild Thornberries, which I loved the Wild Thornberries. That was a really great
Yeah,
cartoon. And then, oh, he was in Star Wars?
the Clone Wars. Oh, let's
Chancellor
see. Yeah, no,
Palpatine, Darth Sidious.
he would have voiced acted it, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Let's see. Also, voice actor with roles in animation. Yeah.
Hmm.
Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Man, good for him.
Yeah, yeah. Tim Curry's in a lot of amazing movies. Well, a lot of movies become amazing with Tim Curry. It's,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The movies are great because of Tim Curry, but also the movies are great if you
but
know.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. He just brings a certain panache, or I don't know what you want to say, to a film.
Yeah,
It's
I agree. So back to the Great British Bake Off.
so
Sorry, got
yes.
a little sidetracked.
So we like watching that every week. I mean, it's a baking competition. So every week the judges pick somebody who has to go home.
Now,
So
comedians are telling the bakers that they have to put their cakes away. I mean, is that what's really happening, or?
they joke. So they get in there and they kind of josh around while they're working on doing their bakes. So the way it's structured is they have like three little competitions or challenges to bake things. The first one, I don't know, what do they call it? The signature. I want to think. I forget. It probably says. And then there's a technical challenge where basically the judges give them a recipe and they have to follow it. And then there's a showcase or at the end where they have to make something fantastic. And each week it's a different thing. Like one week it's pastries, another week it's cakes.
Right. Signature bake, a
Um,
technical challenge, and a showstopper.
right, and a showstopper. Right. So they kind of get judged on those, and whoever is lacking. So they decide who's did the best. So they call that the star baker for the week,
Okay.
and then the person that they feel did the worst they send home.
Okay.
So it's almost always sad to see the person go home because
Yeah.
you get to know all these nice people, and then one of them has to leave.
Right. Oh my goodness.
So, and usually it's about 10 episodes a season, and I don't know, it's just fun to watch.
The page does not exist.
Somehow they make watching people bake entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like the ones where they have where they use like Rice Krispie treats to create statues and
Oh,
cakes
right.
and things
Hmm.
like that. I always find those really fascinating, but then I also find them really weird because
Who wants to eat that?
right? Right? Like your hands have been all over this. You've been standing on a bench
Oh,
sweating over this thing. I don't
hmm,
want to eat that.
right.
Buddy's Bakery. What was that show called? Um, oh my gosh. Buddy's Bakery. It's somebody help me out in chat. This is the bakery in Hoboken. Um,
I know. I may have driven through Hoboken, but that would have been about it.
Buddy. It's okay. It's not a big deal. But they do cakes and stuff that
Mm.
were the first show that did cakes that are in like statues and all that stuff.
Oh,
Like they
okay.
made
Mm-hmm.
big things. Okay, cool. So let's talk about
So,
WandaVision.
WandaVision. I loved WandaVision, except for the last episode, which was a little weak.
Okay.
It's another one of those things where they just couldn't quite, put the really pretty bow on the package at the end. Um, so if you've seen WandaVision, the initial thing was every week they were like recreating an old television family show, starting with like I Love Lucy and kind of stepping their way through examples through the decades. I think they touched on the Brady Bunch, um, and things like that. So it's kind of weird because Wanda and the Vision, they're two superheroes. They're a married couple. And they ended up in like this I Love Lucy reality where, she's Lucy and he's Ricky Ricardo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're going, so it's like four or so episodes before you start figuring out what's really going on. And I don't know. I don't know if you're going to watch it. I don't know really. It's
No,
kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to really get into it without spoiling the direction it heads into.
no, that's fair.
But
I like that they live in the town of Westview, New Jersey. I love it
oh, okay.
that most
Hmm.
shows are set in New Jersey for some freaking reason.
Yeah, it ends up being kind of the story of her overwhelming grief at the loss of her husband. Um,
Is her husband Vision?
Her husband was Vision. Yeah, he was
Okay.
killed in one of the Avengers movies.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I don't know the.
So this is a spin-off of that.
So yeah, this is basically a spinoff Marvel universe.
Got it. Franchise.
Most of the Marvel stuff takes place within the same kind of connected universe for the most part.
Right.
So this takes place after that at some point. I forget. I think it's after they get everybody back, but I don't recall exactly. Um, so
Interesting.
Elizabeth Olsen does a great job. Everybody does really good jobs acting in this.
That's epic.
So I mean, she does such a wonderful, and there's like a journey of growth for her character through this series of dealing with her grief and getting over or coming to terms with it, which they kind of trash in the Doctor Strange movie.
Oh,
So
she's one of the Olsen twin
that's
sisters.
no, she's a sister to the Olsen twins.
Right, that's what I meant. I'm sorry, I said it
Oh,
weird.
okay, right. Right. I think she's a younger.
Yeah, she's the youngest.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Wanda, the franchise, the Avengers, Captain America,
Yeah,
WandaVision, and the second season of What If. That's
I think
weird.
that's an animated, so she probably did a voice for that.
For the streaming service Disney Plus, it is the fourth television series in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The show's studio's first animated series.
Hmm.
It subverts alternate timelines in the multiverse, which they had to create, I assume, because there was only one timeline. So I assume the multiverse had to
So
exist.
I guess so. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, their excuse is Loki somehow broke things, but I.
right.
Hmm.
Um, so then tell me why you hate Scarlet Witch and the Multiverse of
So
Madness.
because they took that journey of growth and everything and just basically trashed it and reset it back, and she's more or less like the same person she kind of was at the beginning of WandaVision.
Okay.
But now she's like grieving over the loss of her children from the WandaVision show. So it's like I don't know. It felt like a completely different character who just got nothing out of that journey in the first one.
Okay.
It kind of felt like it invalidated that, and I don't know.
I'm trying to
So
pull this up, but I'm failing. So let me just
so
type
I
it
felt
out.
yeah, it felt like they just had it's like the writers just had this plan and they needed a villain and then just kind of slotted her in.
Oh, okay. So they're not going to give me anything. So this is the page. This is the page. Um, for the Scarlet Witch, which has it not its own. This movie doesn't have its own Wikipedia for some.
Oh, it's a Doctor Strange movie. Doctor
Oh,
Strange in the Multiverse. That's so she's
okay.
the villain in that movie, which
Interesting.
I don't know, just kind of seemed, I don't know, I didn't care for that.
I do love Benedict Cumberbatch though. Just in
Yeah.
general. I don't know
Oh, in
his
general, okay.
yeah, just in general, he did Sherlock and it by far my
Mm,
favorite Sherlock adaptation I've ever seen. Um takes you on a real journey.
yeah. I don't
Um
know. In the MCU, Doctor Strange comes off as kind of a moron in my book, but
oh yeah.
I don't, I don't know. Maybe it's just the later writing or whatever.
I think I've
It,
seen maybe 3 Marvel movies in my
okay.
lifetime. So, it's not that I hate them, I just don't watch really a lot of movies.
I get that. It's like The Expanse. I would love to watch that, but I don't know if I can ever slot that in. You know,
Right.
I heard great things about 24, which is a series I will never watch, just because it's like 20 episodes a season or something like that, and I just there's other things that I would rather watch, I think, than that. There's too much really good quality content.
Yeah.
Back back when I was a kid, we had, maybe 4 stations. So it really limited how much quality content you had to keep track of.
Right. Yeah, I feel like with all these streaming services, I'm like, have you seen, have you seen? And you're like, have you seen, have you
Hmm.
seen? And we're like, not really connecting us. That's a good thing because that means there's just so much media out there,
Hmm.
And so the overlap is like really difficult.
Yeah. So
um,
as long as the talent gets paid well, I suppose. But,
right.
that's not what the studios really want.
Um,
And that's why they were all on strike this summer.
yeah. Yeah. Tell me about American Flag.
American Flag is a near future comic book. It's kind of cyberpunk.
Okay.
Uh, so it's really interesting. The character here plays an actor who gets replaced by a virtual copy of himself in films, so he no longer has a job because they now have a computer copy of him that does the acting. Which now we're seeing the AI come up. It's like,
Right.
whoa. It's uh, so he ends up joining basically the Plexus Rangers, and he's like basically I don't know, state trooper or a cop on Mars.
Okay.
Um, and I loved the art. I liked the stories. His storytelling techniques. I cannot pronounce the man's last name. Chaikin, I think maybe. Howard
Let's see.
Chaikin is a wonderful writer and artist.
Where am I? Okay, got it. Him.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked. That's another thing. I really like art styles, and then if the writing's good, I kind of chase down stuff from that person.
Yeah.
So I really liked this book. It predates. So in the mid '80s, I think comic books took a big turn for more realistic, and I think that was popularized with like Watchmen and The Return of the Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel was kind of doing that low level all along, but DC really cranked it up with the Watchmen. I think is probably the high watermark as far as literature and comic books
Okay.
so far.
We'll get to that in one
Uh,
second. Let's try to stick on
okay,
American
but
flag. You and I keep
but
getting
but
off
but
topic.
yeah, but like I'm saying, these two are like about 85 or 86 when they came out. American Flag actually predates this and was doing some of the stuff that these comics kind of picked up and ran with.
Got it.
So before the major, and another thing I want to talk about is it's like it was published by First Comics, which wasn't one of the major. It was a short, smaller, independent publisher.
Yeah.
Um, but they were doing basically comics for adults.
Got it.
So, and at the time, Marvel was always kind of doing a little more mature stories than DC. The
Mhm.
DC stuff, I was as a kid, I loved DC.
Mhm.
So, Superman and this typical fighting the supervillain, stereotypical kind of stuff. And,
Mhm.
when I was buying comics in the 70s, that's the kind of stories I was reading. Um, Marvel was a little more mature. You had like Luke Cage, Hero for Hire.
Right.
So they were leaning a little more into the, edgier stuff.
Mhm.
But if I remember correctly, towards the end of the 60s, I think DC dipped their toes into social issues, and I think that got bit off by something because they took a hard turn back into the more, standard comic book stuff in the 70s.
Yeah. It's
So I don't.
interesting that comics really reflect what's going on just like TV shows do now.
Hmm.
I can
Right.
go back and watch a TV show like I was watching Bones. And we were rewatching the entire thing of Bones. And they were talking about, like, I don't know, like the housing market in 2008. And you're
Hmm.
just like, oh, yeah, like that was a public issue that they wanted to address. And so comics, I'm sure, were just the same, only sometimes they got political, right?
I think sometimes, yeah. But there was kind of getting a little political in the late 60s, but I don't know, for some reason, that stuff seemed to come to a stop in the 70s, and I think it picked up again in the 80s.
Okay.
That's kind of the feeling I got. You had a few, I mean, you had the underground comic scene, which, I never saw in a comic book shop.
Right.
Um, so in the 80s, you started getting things like First Comics coming out with stuff that was not designed for kids. It was designed for guys in their 20s, frankly. So that's the feeling I got. I think it was written by guys in their 30s and 40s who were tired of writing, the Superman versus the supervillain of the month club stuff.
Right.
And they started writing stuff, and I was in my 20s then, so I started eating that stuff up. So that was kind of, for me, that was felt like the change, and then eventually that bled into the major comics, DC and Marvel.
Now, this is interesting. So, the first advantage of the growing direct market attracting a number of writers from DC and Marvel to produce creator owned titles which they were not subject to comic code.
Right, comic code. I forgot about that. Yes,
So, what
that's
is
right. There was a
that?
comic code. In the 50s, people were scared of comic books. They were being unregulated, so they made a comic code authority to approve what you could put in a comic book. There was these classic comics that called EC Comics. My my mother actually loved those as she was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they were really edgy and scary. And I don't know. You look at them now, it doesn't seem that bad. But back in the 50s, somebody got a real bug up their butt and created this comic book authority. Basically, ran that company out of business.
Oh my gosh.
Uh, and then, of course, that kind of limited to what Marvel and DC could do.
Yeah, publishers
And things.
bypassed the CCA. Marvel Comics abandoned it in 2001. By 2010, only three major
Mhm.
publishers adhered to it: DC, Archie, and Bongo Comics. Bongo broke with the CCA in 2010, and DC Archie followed in 2011, rendering the code completely defunct.
Right. So to get around that in another way, DC Comics and Marvel were spinning off separate lines. I think DC famously created Vertigo,
Okay.
which ran the Sandman series, which I never read, but really heard great stuff about. And then you had things like First Comics, and I want to say the infamous Rob Liefeld Imagine. I can't remember what that was.
Okay.
Uh,
Eclipse Comics and Pacific Comics.
Pacific Comics. Yep. All right, Pacific Comics. I forgot about them. And eventually Dark Horse Comics, I think, came out of that movement. But I
Yeah.
think they're still around. Pacific Comics is gone, I think.
Liquidated in 1985.
Hmm.
And then Eclipse Comics, 1994.
Right.
Intellectual property acquired in 1996.
So this was the sort of stuff I was picking up during the 80s.
Okay. Interesting.
Hmm. and I was still picking up some of the regular, Justice League or whatever the some of those titles as well. I think I was going through X Men at the time, and what is it? New Mutants, I think, was out at right about then. Came out for the first time.
I love X-Men.
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
do. I don't know why. Probably because it's one of the first movies to me that came out like where it came out. When did the first X-Men come out? X-Men
Oh, I
movie
don't know.
film series 2000.
2000, right? That sounds about
Okay.
right. Mm-hmm.
So the X-Men came out in 2000. I'm not going to say what age I was, but I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the first superhero movies I ever saw. And we were still into the X-Men cartoons at that time.
Right.
And so it really like it went from cartoon to screen, and I was in a complete awe, and I think that's why like X-Men has a place in my heart.
I get that. It's like you watching a show, and then when it becomes on a big screen, and if it comes anything close to what you wanted it to be, you're like, whoa.
Right, right.
It's there's like the Watchmen movie. I don't know, it didn't do that great, but in a really way I liked it because it was a really nice visualization of the comic book,
Mhm.
at least to me, because I didn't need the backstory. I've read the book.
Right.
So sometimes, if you've read the book, you don't need quite the same thing people coming in cold need.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't need to.
Hmm.
But with movies, you kind of have to coddle the audience because assuming that there's both new members and then people who are fans.
Right.
And you got to do
Hmm.
that with every Marvel DC movie.
Right.
There
You
are
have to
people. Go ahead.
and then there's like the Harry Potter films are really bad that way too. Um,
Yep.
there's a lot of people coming in this, and then there's all the kids who've read the books every single time. They were at the midnight waiting for the
Mhm.
books to be released, kind of people.
Yeah.
So when they finally came, you have to stay pretty close to true for them. But on the other hand, you can't do. There's just realities with making movies versus writing a book that you can't be the same.
I agree.
So when I was younger, it's harder to understand that. But as you get older, you start to get a better feeling for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. So okay,
So,
we can talk about Watchmen now. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
so
to cut
yes.
you off.
Oh, that's okay. Watchmen originally came out as a mini series for 12 episodes or 12 comic books, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
These days, you can pick it up bound in one single episode. It's really cool because it lays a few different stories on top of itself.
Mhm.
There are two, and there's a meta story in there too. So you have the story of the superheroes, and it kind of goes through the different heroes of this sort of legendary Watchmen group. So there's their stories, and then there's these little stories that kind of centers around this corner in New York City and the people who tend to pass through there or inhabit that space.
Mhm.
So there's a little bit of the regular people stories. Then there's this weird story with this kid reading this comic book about this guy surviving these, it's I want to say like 19th century shipwreck survivor stories, which are really gruesome and bloody. And so there's that meta story there. And this is all layered on top of itself to run through the run of the big story.
Okay.
So I don't know, it's kind of a beautiful the way it comes to the end, and it's a completely unique ending from comic book stories that I had been reading at that time. I mean,
Now,
nowadays you got anti-heroes in comic books all the time, so it's like no surprise.
oh wow, Time's
you know
list of 100 best novels is one of the best English language novels published since 1923.
hmm
Wow. The moment
yeah,
comic books grew up.
yeah.
Interesting. Now, what did you think of the film?
But I liked the film, but then again, it's because a lot of it kind of nicely visualized the comic book.
Mhm.
The art in the comic book is nice, but I don't know, I don't love it. Um, and it's just a stylistic, not quite my taste kind of thing.
Right.
But I loved the way the movie was shot. It looked beautiful.
2009. Yeah, that
But if
was
you
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, if you weren't invested in the book, I don't know how you would take the movie.
So I took the movie as incredibly boring and long.
Okay.
Um, but I know the Watchmen story. Like, I know it wasn't supposed to
Hmm.
be that way, but coming into just watching a movie and not really know, because, side note, Guardians of the Galaxy,
Oh.
I came into that
Hmm.
movie that day that it was released. I was with someone and they were like, "Come on, I really want to go to this movie at midnight." And I was like, "I never do this, but fine, I want you to impress you." So, I go there. I know nothing of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I watched it for the first time with complete new eyes. And I got to say,
Hmm.
that was a fantastic film for
Yeah.
someone who's never seen, never even heard of Guardians of the Galaxy. That was a fantastic film.
Hmm. I
What?
do. I do. That's probably my favorite Marvel movie, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, really?
I think so. It's just fun.
Yeah,
Um, and up to that time, Marvel wasn't quite that fun.
yeah,
They
and
got funner after that.
and
But
of course they really did great with the soundtrack,
oh, right. Hmm.
and so
Oh, yeah, that's another thing. If you get a really good soundtrack with a movie,
yeah.
that
Uh,
can.
let's see. Was heard of this with filming. In addition to an original score, the soundtrack includes several popular songs from the 60s and 70s. Post production was
Hmm.
completed in 2014. So yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy, when he puts in the mixtape
Hmm.
and all the songs come on, and then even in 2 and 3 when he puts it, like, the music brings everybody into like this nostalgic, like, okay, but then at the same token
Right.
you've got like galaxy happening.
I know. And it's weird and colorful and wonderful galaxy too.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It wasn't a depressing. I mean, it's kind of gritty, but it was so. I don't know. There's something really flashy about the galaxy in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
So,
Star Lord coming in when the very first scenes of the movie where he's doing
hmm.
the dance and all that stuff, and he's killing people left and right, but he's just got his music. Like, I was like, what is this? This is incredible.
Hmm. I know. And basically, they maintain that all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like. Hmm.
Yeah, and it's funny because Chris Pratt has gone on to other movies, but it's kind of like I always see him in Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, most people see him
That's
from Parks and Rec, but I
that's
see
what I
him,
heard.
yeah, but I see
Hmm.
him from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and I look at Parks and Rec, and he really buffed up
Oh,
for
yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of weird if you look at Parks and Rec and you're going, they hired this guy to play Star Lord. Um, so I mean, obviously somebody knew what they were doing when they hired the guy.
Yeah, look, this is part. Oh, sorry, you're cut off here. This is Parks and Recreation.
Hmm.
2009 is what he looked like.
Right.
It looks nothing like this. This
Hmm.
beautiful face, beautiful chiseled, beautiful person
Yeah.
face. Sorry, I
And
love Chris Pratt.
I know, and I love how Star Lord isn't the noble hero. He
Yes.
does that. He does that really well, and he
Mm-hmm.
manages to maintain that not being the noble hero more or less throughout all the movies.
Yep. And the fact that he even did the Super Mario Bros. Movie, he did a really good job in that movie for voice acting.
Mm.
Everyone was real worried about what the voices were going to be like, with Mario and stuff, and he killed it. Like, he's good. Everything he touches
Oh,
is gold.
he's another one of those.
Yeah.
Well, I've already forgotten who we were talking about earlier. Rocky Horror. What's his name? You know who I'm talking about, and already I've forgotten his name. Damn it!
Wait,
Don't
so
get old.
where
Don't get
from?
old. Um,
From what show? From what movie?
Rocky Horror. You played
Oh,
Rocky.
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry. Right, right, right. Tim
Mm-hmm.
Curry. It's like Tim Curry brings that extra magic.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's a
Hmm.
great comparison. And don't quote me on I love Chris Pratt because I don't even
Chris.
think I have quotes enabled because I had to reset my OBS. Don't
Oh,
don't try it, but I'm pretty sure I
Crispy
don't have
Rat.
it. Yeah. Um, Yeah, I had to reset my OBS from scratch, and I
Yeah.
lost pretty much
So,
everything.
oh no.
Yeah.
Would you do the latest update?
Yeah, that might as well, right?
Yeah.
But no, I ended up having to switch. What did I switch, babe? Hard drives, something like that. I switched out something.
Oh, oh, I did that like early in December. That's just so annoying
Mm-hmm.
because I'm basically rebuilding the whole system since then.
Right. And then I just got a new computer, which screwed everything up. So
Hmm.
just okay. So Watchmen. So
So
okay.
the Watchmen
Yes.
comic book, a turning point in comic book history.
Mm-hmm.
So like so the reason I like American Flag is actually he was doing kind of this sort of, but not quite as well as Alan Moore would do it in Watchmen,
Mm-hmm.
but that sort of predates. Um, but I think it was like setting the stage to allow Alan Moore to step in with Watchmen
Mm-hmm.
and his storytelling with that, which kind of completely changed the way we look at comic books today.
I feel like I want to watch Watchmen again with a better eye on what it is,
Yeah.
rather than just being like X teen years old.
Yeah, I
And
don't read stuff, but if you're gonna read stuff and you don't mind reading graphic novels, if you can track that down and read the graphic novel, maybe that's and there's all this little extra material as if it's like press cuttings or scrapbooking stuck in there that kind of backs up the story as well,
that's
all
really
inside of
cool.
that.
Let me see if they have pictures. This is the main characters. Which
There they
I
are.
just
Hmm.
remember the guy with the face. That's this one right
Oh,
here.
yep.
Yeah.
Uh,
Doctor, no, not Doctor, the
no,
comedian, and Night Owl, and Rorschach.
Rorschach.
I
That's
just
it,
remember
Rorschach.
his face making all the
Hmm.
different things, and I was like, heebie
I
jeebies.
know. It looked really cool the way they did that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember him the most. Um, I always recommended everyone to watch Watchmen and skip the movie, which utterly changed the story and the message. Same with V for Vendetta. No mystery why Alan Moore hates every adaptation of his work.
I did not mind the ending. I thought it was kind of an interesting twist in the movie to do it a little bit different than it was in the comic book. And actually, in a weird way, it makes sense what they did in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That ending, um, it's a little more sinister, I think, than what they did in the comic book in a way. So,
Yeah.
if you remember the movie, Asmodeus ends up portraying Doctor Manhattan is the big threat,
Mm-hmm.
and in the comic book, they don't put the blame on him per se. They
Right.
just make up this fake threat to the world.
Right. That's right. Right.
So I thought that was kind of maybe an interesting twist, but I can see how Alan Moore would hate that
Right.
because it. I definitely can see why because it's such a pivotal. It basically kind of changes the tone of the ending quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So manga artist Masamune
Manga art,
Shiro.
yeah.
Shiro.
So he was popular in the '80s and the '90s.
Okay.
I don't know. This is more of my comic book days. I put a lot of my comic book stuff while I was thinking, and
Oh,
then of
this is
course I
fine.
was thinking of other stuff I liked later on. But during my big comic book days in the '80s and the '90s, we started getting manga packaged up in comic books. American comic companies would license this stuff, flip it backwards, put it in a comic book so we could read it properly
Yeah.
and then translated into English. And so Shiro uh, had a couple of books. He's the guy that created Ghost in the Shell.
Okay.
So that's probably the big name product that you've heard of, which of course then Scarlett Johansson, uh, Honky Girl.
Yeah. Good night, fakes.
Hey, take care. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh, so he's the one that. So I started reading his couple of books of his Appleseed and Dominion. Appleseed's a post-Holocaust story that takes place with these two survivors, and I can't even remember the names anymore. But one's basically a cyborg and a gal, who's basically a highly trained combat specialist.
Okay.
They get collected and brought into this paradise city, and it's the adventures that take place in there.
Yeah. Sacred Republic of Moon and Poseidon. Character is Dwenin Knut
Yeah,
and
I can never.
Brairos Hectoranchures.
So he's basically a cyborg at this place, but they're a couple,
Oh, okay.
so it's an interesting dynamic. So you can, it's the picture of them right there at the cover. That's her and him.
Aw. That's really cool.
hmm
And then the other one you said was Dominion.
Dominion, yes. Tank police. It's funny. So
Oh, okay.
it it's basically cops with tanks, and you've got this young police officer gal who's determined to be in the tank police, and she ends up kind of building her own cutesy little killer tank. Uh-huh. So I think it's Bonaparte was the name of her tank, and she has a co-pilot who I think has a crush on her, but she's not overly interested in that. She's in love with her tank.
That's
So,
so
so it's
funny.
the so it's kind of the comic story there, and I like that story, and it doesn't get as much press as anything else, or I don't think it's as well known as his other stuff.
Interesting. Okay,
Yep.
so did his art? Does he have art in the manga? Yes, obviously it's
He
a
does.
manga.
Yes, he draws and he writes. So I love his style,
Okay.
and again, it's another one of those. If I get hooked on the art and the writing.
Yeah.
So, and of course, it's hard to find any.
Oh, a lot of art books.
Yeah, a lot of art books. I think a
Grease
lot of it's got.
berries.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Is he
Why don't
still?
let's see. Yes, he's still alive.
Okay.
Age 62.
Yeah. So I put him down because Appleseed I love. Ghost in the Shell most people have heard of, and it is pretty rock solid. And I think I've read those. I don't read these days,
Yeah, I don't read either.
so I usually just watch stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem. Is it's like I loved reading Watchmen, but I probably would never sit down and read it again at this point unless something happens.
Just watch it.
No, that's right. But it's a different experience. Um,
Yeah, and I'm looking at all the video games too. This is really cool.
it's funny. Yeah, I've never played the video games. I've just kind of focused on the
Manga.
manga. There you go. And
Uh-huh.
then the follow on animations or the animes that followed.
I've heard of Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. So that's interesting. Because like I said, I don't know all the backstories or who these people
Yeah,
are, but
I'm.
I've heard of that one. And Ghost in the
hmm
Shell, I've heard of. Um,
hmm
but yeah, there's even a game online, release date 2017, free to play online first person shooter.
Okay. I
Cool.
think some of this stuff he does a little bit of the concept art for, and then they stick his name on it.
Right.
So, at a certain point, you get a name, and then people want to just somehow get your name on their product.
Right.
So I feel like some of the stuff may be that.
Um, did we. Ugh, I can't even remember. No, I don't think we did. Let's talk about Hannibal.
So Hannibal, oh, the book. I did not
Yes.
like the book because I
Uh,
loved Silence of the Lambs,
yes.
and I actually read the book Silence of the Lambs, and I loved the character Clarice in that,
There we go.
Starling,
Uh huh.
and I thought they just did her rotten in this book. And so Hannibal Lecter is this super cool serial killer, um, psychologist or psychiatrist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I always get the feeling that Thomas Harris started identifying with the character too much and liked him too much,
Mm,
so he becomes like the anti-hero in this book.
that's strange.
Yeah, and then he basically just I don't know what's a good mind fucks Clarice Starling
Right.
into being his girlfriend, basically. And I thought that was so creepy.
Yeah, Stockholm syndrome.
Exactly, and it just I don't know. She was just a good, strong character, and then to have him go and do this to her just felt
Yeah,
yeah,
that whole
yeah.
concept just doesn't
I'm
seem right.
sorry. hmm So, and that just completely soured me from ever watching the movie. And
Silence.
I think Jodie Foster did the same thing. She didn't want to be in the Hannibal sequel.
Oh, there was a
So they,
sequel?
yeah, so Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal's the sequel to that, and Jodie Foster wasn't in that. And I think it's probably for the same reason I don't like the book. Julian Moore, I think, played Clarice in that movie.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
So I got to say, the book turned me so off. So I don't know. I didn't like the book so much. I never bothered to watch the movie based on it. Although I loved his, he did a book called Red Dragon, which was basically the book before Silence of the Lambs, and they made a couple of movies of that, and I liked those. So,
Trying to
and
see.
that had to do with another detective. Um, so there was a movie called Manhunter before Silence of the Lambs, which was a pretty good movie. And
Uh,
in that is the first time I think we see on screen Hannibal Lecter, played by Brian Cox.
okay. I'm trying to. Come on now. Come on
I'm
now.
not sure. I'm not sure if I caught Red Dragon. I really liked Manhunter. I'm talking to Jack over there.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Um, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I should watch the Red Dragon just to see how that went,
Yeah, Red Dragon
just
2002
so I
film.
compared. Was it William Peterson that was in Manhunter? I'm trying to think. He played. He was the long-running CSI star.
Um, Manhunter, American thriller film based on Red Dragon. Stars William Peterson as the FBI profiler.
Right. So he would later on go on to star for what 10 to 15 seasons in CSI.
Yeah.
It's probably where you know him best from.
Mm-hmm.
hmm So
Wow.
he did a really solid job in Manhunter, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. 1986 thriller film. Got it.
And then they remade it again, I think, as a follow on to the Hannibal movie.
I think I remember
So
seeing
that's
that.
what you're looking at, right? 2002. I think you were just looking at it
Mm-hmm.
right there.
Okay. Okay, okay, okay.
So, so because Manhunter was kind of by itself, it's a bit different and not quite, I think, in the what I want to say, in the same universe as this movie is more in the same universe as Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal,
Right.
because they had the story rights to Red Dragon and they made Manhunter out of that. It's not necessarily the same if I vaguely remember, although the characters are the same. There's probably differences. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does. I'm also seeing who else was in this, and a lot of them I'm very familiar with.
Mm-hmm. And Anthony Hopkins, of course.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. So the novel, yeah, the novel doesn't sound good the way you described it. I,
I did not. I did not enjoy the novel. I wasn't crazy about turning Hannibal into the hero. Uh, and also, I liked the Starling. And it's one of those things I'm like vested into the character, and I want to see good things happen to her. And of course, it didn't.
right,
It's like the worst case scenario for her happened.
right. Yeah. Let me see if they have. There's adaptations, reception. The ending was controversial, and the reaction to the novel was mixed.
Mm-hmm.
Criticized Hannibal as a huge disappointment. Its disturbing subtext, which Lecter up as a sympathetic character, and Harris twisting so out of character simply to provide a shock ending.
It's right.
Hmm.
That was pretty much my impression at the time. I didn't just read that out of Wikipedia and come back.
That's funny.
It's
um,
kind of heartening when I read Wikipedia and it kind of agreed with my initial take.
Yeah. When Wikipedia agrees with you.
So that was basically one of my dislikes. I did not care for that.
Okay.
There's not a lot of stuff I can like nail as disliking, but that's one of them.
Yeah. That's a good dislike. I like that.
Hmm.
Rocketeer.
Rocketeer
Film.
film, comic book, mugs, action figures.
Okay.
I started Rocketeer with the comic books, and he started as a backstory. And then this is one of those you mentioned Pacific Comics. He originally started as a backstory in Pacific Comics,
Okay.
Star Slayer, and eventually got popular enough to get his own book. Um, he was created and drawn by a guy, Dave Stevens, who's passed away at like the age of 55, which is
Mm-hmm.
really sad.
Yeah.
Um, I he's like here's another guy. I love this guy's work. It's just gorgeous. He introduced me to Betty Page.
Mm-hmm.
Was not familiar with Betty Page, the famous pinup model,
Mm-hmm.
and GB racing planes. And this is set in the 1930s, similar to like the Indiana Jones movies. So it's really pulp. The story's okay. The art's great. Um,
Let me see.
so
There you go.
mhm.
Rocketeer.
So, and if you look at the character there in the middle, the young guy, if you just saw the picture of Dave Stevens, he basically used himself as a model,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and
The picture.
knowing that you can now see that, right?
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Hmm.
Um.
And
Walt
he
Disney
initially,
did a picture. Did a motion picture about it.
yeah. So Walt Disney did a picture. I liked it because it's once again it's this wonderful visualization of media that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the story was okay. I can see, you know, but I loved it because it's my Rocketeer. Damn it.
Right.
Um, hmm.
Yeah. As you
So
see the
there's a
comic book,
difference.
and then you go ahead and see it on the big screen, just like I did with X Men.
Exactly. Right. And so it felt really cool to see that. So I
Interesting.
don't know. There's just something about the aesthetics to that. There's an old pulp series called King of the Rocket Men, so you can see where it gets that from.
Hmm.
He, his story is touching on things like there's a little cameo from Doc Savage. They kind of he can't actually come out and say it's Doc Savage because he doesn't have the rights to use that character, but he just kind of draws a guy that looks like that in there, and some of his henchmen, some of his associates.
Yeah. King of the Rocketman
Um,
looks just like Rocketeer.
yeah, so the helmet's shaped a little bit different,
Right.
things like that. But you can more or less see where he gets it from.
Right. Interesting. I've never heard of him. I don't even know that movie.
But you don't. Oh no, we can't talk anymore. So I get where is it? There's the Rocketeer right up to over there.
Oh
It's above
wow.
me. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. You got it cropped. It's on my geek cred shelf.
Oh okay.
So if you're a streamer, you have to show your geek creds behind you. So
Yep. On mine, there's like
mhm,
Minecraft sword, and it
right.
says Broadway, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff behind my head. And then because it's the Minecraft's diamond sword, people ask if that's my mod
Mhm.
sword since I moderate so many channels, and I just say yes.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yes, it is.
Oh, Jack likes the Hannibal book. That's it, Jack. I'm not rating you again.
Never
I am. I
rating.
am kidding, of course. Yeah. There's well, if I don't know, you can't see it there. Wait, no, you can now. My original D&D books are up there on that shelf
Here,
in the
hold on.
middle.
I'll do this. Hold on.
You can zoom in.
There you go.
So if you can see it right there, there's a DeLorean in front of it.
Okay.
So my original D&D books came in a little white box
I love it.
back in '78. I think it was '78. Might have been '79. I want to say '78 because it sounds cooler if it's older.
Yeah. I see the
So
Rocketeer thing up there too.
So yeah, there's a Rocketeer thing. There's a Rocketeer right over my shoulder there. You can see him there between
Yeah.
the Coke bottles.
There's Dominion.
There's Yep, there's my Dominion. So there's my Watchman.
Did you just
There is
look
a.
at your shelf and put the right things that you
It
like?
seems it seems that way, doesn't it?
It's
There's a.
perfect. It makes
That's right. You can
sense.
see the Scooby Gang up there, right?
Yeah, we're just about to talk about them actually.
Yeah, and then there's a magazine up there that my partner illustrated the cover for back when
Oh,
she was still doing that.
that's really cool.
Hmm.
That's really cool. Let's talk about Ruby Ruby
And
Roo.
there's my Opus. We're not talking about Opus or Godzilla, but still, there's a
Oh,
for anybody who actually knows what a Bloom County is.
okay.
Jack might know what a Bloom County is.
All right. So tell me about Scooby Doo. Ruby Roo.
Scooby Doo. I don't know. I love Scooby Doo. There's just something about it. Um, it's I don't I grew up with the original Scooby Doo, and I don't know a weird. It's funny because I know I like the characters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So in particular, Velma for some reason, the cute little smart chick. That's I don't know. There's just something about that that's really attractive. And then of course Shaggy um, and Scooby are just like total slackers. And I
Yeah.
don't know. There's all sorts of we can write in our own little stories about how Scooby snacks are actually magic brownies, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Um, I eventually learned these characters are loosely based off of an old late 50s sitcom called The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis.
Okay, wait. I might
Um,
have to. The Many
so
Loves of
I'm
Dobie
so
Gillis. Here we go.
that's right. So I actually watched that series because it was based on because Scooby Doo's supposedly based off that. And you can kind of see it. So Bob Denver, who played Gilligan on Gilligan's Island, was in this, and he played was it Maynard B. Krebs or something like that in Dobie Gillis,
Okay.
and I can't remember her name. But in a weird way, for me, this was a little depressing to watch because the girls in this are like the smartest people,
Mm-hmm.
and their whole future is based on who they're going to marry. I
50s.
know, I know. So it's like she right here, Dahlia Manager. I can't remember the actress name off the top of my head. If you scroll down just a little bit, it probably
Menard
says.
Krebs, Mary, Yvette LeBlanc.
No, that's not. It's a different one. Damn it.
Let's see. Let's scroll down. Let's see.
Yeah, what's the cast? Cast list.
Menard K. Eldhard.
She's she's a fairly well known, or she was a well known actress at the time.
I'm
Uh,
just in shock because I have a friend who literally looks exact. I just took a screenshot. He
oh,
looks
really?
exactly like this.
Dang.
Oh my gosh.
So, so he was kind of a beatnik in this, and this is where supposedly Shaggy is based loosely off of.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean,
there's the smart girl character was Zelda,
okay.
um, and the actress who played her eventually came out as being gay, but back then she certainly couldn't
Right.
come out as being gay. Um,
Florida Freebus, uh, Dwayne Hickman, Frank,
Dwayne Hickman,
and Bob Denver. That's what his name is.
Bob Denver, yeah, that's who played Maynard and was later Gilligan.
Oh my gosh, though this picture, Galvos, I need you to look at the screen real quick.
Starring, oh, this doesn't have her name. Damn it. Frick, I gotta Google this
Yeah, I can look it up.
because it's driving me crazy.
Who is this,
Alien
Galvos?
Ninja. Tuesday Weld. That's it. Tuesday
Tuesday?
Weld.
That's a cool name.
Yeah. So she played like the pretty girl that Dobie was always trying to chase, but was never going to catch.
Mm,
Because he is not particularly bright and he's not rich, and that's who she's going for. She's looking for the rich guy. Although honestly, the way they portray her, she is smart enough to be an investment banker and could have made a killing on her own. But in 1958 wasn't going to happen.
yeah.
And then there's the super smart one, Zelda, who eventually I guess is the the model for Velma,
Hmm.
she's going to settle for Dobie because that's pretty much the best she can hope for. She feels
Yeah.
it's so sad. It really is.
Spawned up popularity, money, and the attention of beautiful and unattainable girls. This looks like
Hmm.
Gabriel, hun. Oh my god. Like I said, I had to take a screenshot. That is crazy. That is crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing me all this. So let's go back to Scooby Doo. Ruby
So
Roo.
so back to Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
So I just love Scooby Doo. It's fun. Um, I liked the movies back in the early aughts. I think if you managed to catch any of those.
Yes, I have actually.
So yeah, I know those were fun. I can't remember the name of the guy that played Shaggy, but he definitely nailed that character. And he's a
Uh,
famous guy.
we talking about ABC, the new Scooby 12 Ghosts, Pup named
We're,
Scooby Doo.
we're talking about the movies.
Movies.
I know. Um, Here, I can never remember. It's like as soon as I see it, I'm going to go, oh yeah, him. Oh yeah, her.
Right.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
film and rerun history. Return to Scooby Doo's in
it had
1980.
Sarah Michelle Gellar was in it, and she played Daphne.
Oh, yeah,
Freddie Prinze
Freddie Prince
Jr.
Jr. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
was. Hmm. Yeah,
Let me.
I mean the four of them are all well known.
Right. Um.
So
Let
so
me
the
see if
one
I
that
can
played
do Freddie Prince Jr. There we go. Uh, Feature length
Matthew
film.
Little.
Sarah Michelle Gellar
Hmm.
and Matthew Lillard as Shaggy. Oh my
Matthew
God,
Lillard.
that's right. What is
Yeah,
he?
he was so good at. I mean, he more or less he nailed Shaggy.
He did.
Um, his portrayal in that. I thought I loved how he did that.
Yeah.
And then you had Linda Cardinelli playing Velma, and I think she did a great job as that.
Yeah, I agree. She's all that. Hackers scream. Serial mom. He looks so familiar too. But that's
I
probably
don't
where
know.
I know him. That's probably yeah.
Yeah, well, he was in a horror film I had seen him in previously too, but
Scream.
13 Ghosts.
Oh,
That's it.
okay.
Oh, maybe I probably saw him in Scream too. Now that you mention it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Scream is probably where I saw it. So yeah, I mean, and even a pup named Scooby Doo. Like I watched that as a kid.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Did I? Yes, I did.
I have to say I didn't watch that. That's a little after my time.
Yeah, that's a retooled show was a success, remaining in production for 4 seasons and on ABC's lineup until 1991. Now, you know when you watch like older shows, even though you're super young,
Hmm.
that's was this for me.
Right.
I was very young when this was made, and I watched it after like when I was in my single digits.
Okay. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is I love this. I love that you love Scooby Doo, and I love that this was on your list.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is that a guilty pleasure? Not really.
Is that what?
Is that a guilty pleasure? But not really.
No,
Everybody loves Scooby Doo,
everybody
right?
loves Scooby Doo.
It's not like liking Sucker Punch or something. Oops, did I
Right,
say that out loud? Damn
right.
it.
um, let's talk about Meatloaf.
Meatloaf. Oh my God. I, in a weird way, I wish I had seen Meatloaf in concert once, but I
Yeah,
never. I don't know. I wasn't a big concert viewer, but later on in life, I'm going. By the time I really wanted to see him, it was too late.
yeah,
Um, so Bat Out of Hell is a tape that I wore out. I literally wore out in a cassette player um,
yes.
in my car. I played it so much I had to buy another copy of it.
That's
So
amazing.
I loved that. I don't
What?
know. There's just something. It was well him and Jim Stannerman. I want to say Stannerman. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Who actually wrote Bat Out of Hell? I don't know the combination that were. I was watching a YouTube video where an opera singer, was watching Meatloaf do Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, and she was commenting on that.
Wow.
and it just struck me there's a real rock opera style to a lot of the stuff that he performs.
Dark and Void, thank you so much for the subscription with Prime. Meatloaf is the best. Hot Patootie, bless my soul.
That's it.
Yep.
That's one of the standout songs from Rocky Horror, I think.
Yep, absolutely. And thank you, Dark and Void, for the subscription. I really super appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for that subscription. Here, we'll give you a dyslexic heart like I do on my channel.
The first album
'Cause-
stayed on the charts for over 9 years as of 2016 and still sold an estimated 200,000 copies annually.
Mhm.
What? Like, that's insane.
Yeah, it's I don't know. There's a lot of most of that album is just meat. I mean, I know back in the days they would sell albums and you would get like 8 to 12 songs and you got it for one, and if you were lucky there was another song or two you could listen to.
Right.
I felt a lot of albums felt like that, where you were more or less buying it for the big hit, and then I don't, and I'm not a real music person, so I couldn't appreciate a lot of the subtleties in great music. Um, I admit it. I like the pop stuff for the most part. If it's popular on the radio, there's a reason, and I kind of go with that.
Yeah.
But there are some albums, and Bat Out of Hell is one of those where it's got so many tracks on there that you can just keep listening to.
We call that a no skip album.
Exactly right. There's not the need. I think Janet Jackson had an album like that I loved.
Oh, yeah.
But there's not a lot of albums in my that I find that I can do that too. But this was one of them. Unless it's a best of album,
Yeah.
in which case you're getting all
All the
the
best
good
ones.
tracks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The best
You know,
of.
six. That's right. 10 songs off of 8 albums, because the rest of that stuff you couldn't listen to again.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness. Yeah, my parents love Meatloaf. I love Meatloaf.
Yeah, he's just got that. I don't know. There's something. He was just awesome with that voice. I was watching, like I said, I was watching the opera singer critique his work. There's a real showmanship while he's singing too, in the what they were showing. So, and you could see that in Rocky Horror Picture Show. He brings that, right.
Yeah.
He has that like one scene. He pops out of ice, does a song, and then Rocky finishes him off, or
Yep.
Frankenfurter finishes him off, and that is it. It's a
That's
little
it.
sad, but still.
He
Um,
yeah, he got still fame from that, and still everybody watched it because like loved it. Like, that's
mhm,
amazing song.
right.
But yeah, Meatloaf performing in
No,
2004. He passed in 2022. So just
right.
a year, 2 years ago.
Hmm. I think I heard he was sick for a while too, though. Maybe he'd lost his voice prior to that.
Mm-hmm. Vegetarianism. Meatloaf was a vegetarian from 1981 and 1992. Discussing the confusion caused by his contrasting stage name and dietary habits, there have been vegetarians who wouldn't speak to me because of my name. I was sitting with John Bon Jovi at one of those award things, and I said, "Oh man, I love Katie Lang. I'd really like to meet her." They went to find out if that was okay, and she goes, "No, his name is Meatloaf." I stopped being a Katie Lang fan after that.
Oh,
That's funny.
oh, that's a little sad.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. But okay, so we've got about 5 minutes. So let me go ahead and get
Okay,
to the big end, which is Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did not watch Star Trek when it first came out. It was in syndication in the afternoons when I started watching it in the 70s. I was a little young for them. It's funny, as a young kid, I kind of remember hearing about Star Trek, but it was like one of those adult shows that I never would have gotten at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say I was like maybe 6 to 7 or 8 or somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I started watching it, I was probably like 11 or 12, and it's like we were not getting any science fiction on television like Star Trek at the time. And that changed my world, really, kind of like Star Wars would later on. Um, Actually, Star Wars came out not too long after but I was already hooked on Star Trek
Yeah.
before Star Wars came out, and this because it didn't have competition. It was nicely written episodes, good characters. The action was stiff, though. I will give you that. If you watch the old ones, uh, you know the you watch old television shows and old movies, and all the action scenes are barely choreographed.
Right.
Um, if people are shooting, they're like standing still and pointing a gun and going, almost like going pew 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 pew.
Right, right.
Uh, you know, I have to say, choreography has just gotten so much
Oh
better
yeah.
since then.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
see Guardians of the Galaxy.
exactly. hmm they started taking things like Bruce Lee movies and wrapping them up into television shows and hiring choreographers for that instead of, having it looks like the director choreographed the fight scenes
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But the stories were really good, and it was just the idea they were out there in space, and they had these cool space. The effects were really janky compared to what we got now, but nonetheless, it's like we still had spaceships in
Right.
space. It looked cool.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the things that got me hooked on sci-fi.
Did you latch on to like comic books, video games, novels, television series? Like, did you
I
not latch on all of it?
yeah, comic books. I didn't really latch on the video games very much because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, they would eventually. When I was a kid, we had the Atari 6800 or something like that with these janky little cartridges and the
Yeah.
Pitfall games, and I don't know, I never really the graphics were too little. I don't know, they didn't quite grab me. It would get better later on, but I think I was already playing D&D too much and stuff like that.
Right.
So
You should have put
I
D
used
and D on your list.
I know, I just don't like. I haven't played D&D since the 90s. That's the reason why it wasn't on the list.
Got it.
Although I was heavy into it um, through the 80s and the early 90s before we moved out here, and I had no friends but my partner.
Aw.
I
Yeah.
know.
I
Now we
know
have the
that
internet, and I
feeling.
would have just Zoom called, but
I know that feeling.
back back then.
Hey, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna mute my mic on stream, but you're still gonna hear me.
Okay.
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 Sorry about that.
So that's Star. So I don't know. There's been a lot of Star Trek I've missed,
Mm-hmm.
but early on I did watch. I have watched all the original series. I think I religiously watched all the Next Generation when it came out because it's like, oh my God, we're getting Star Trek again.
Right. All the
you
Star
know,
Trek all the time.
yeah. I hate to say it, Star Trek the motion picture is like, all right, Star Trek the motion picture. Why is everything gray?
Right.
What the? Why am I falling asleep in a Star Trek movie? What the
Yeah.
hell? How
Yeah.
did? But then they gave us Wrath of Khan, so it's all is forgiven.
Yeah.
Um, mhm.
Yeah.
And then we
The
got
films.
then we got Next Generation, and that went for 7 years, and pretty solid storytelling and lots of cool characters there. Um, and it just keeps going. I did catch the last couple of seasons of the New Frontiers. Is that what it is?
I think so.
Oh, dang.
The original series, The Next
Whatever.
Generation. Hold on. Let me
Yeah.
saw
No,
the
it's the
Star Trek, The Next Generation, the original series, Deep Space Nine,
Discovery. No, is it Discovery? Is
Voyager,
that the?
Enterprise,
No, 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 no.
and Discovery.
New Worlds. Oh, New Worlds. Go down.
Oh, oh, oh! I was getting there.
There you go. There's Strange New Worlds. That's it. I am really liking Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
hmm I I don't know. It's connecting. It's bringing in kind of like one of the things I like. I do like episodic, but then not too episodic. So they're kind of balancing between standalone stories and overarching storylines through the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like the characters in this, and I like the way they're telling. I don't know. It feels good,
Yeah, I'm looking at all
if
the
that makes
people
any
who are
sense.
in this,
hmm
and it looks like it's a pretty hefty, good cast.
Yeah,
Oh,
they all do.
Rebecca Alley O'Connell.
Yeah.
Wasn't she
So
already
yeah,
in uh Star Trek?
She may have been. I like the fact. What is she? She's like about 50 now, right?
Yeah,
I
she's
like the fact
51.
they hired. Yeah, I love the fact they hired an older actress. She does not look 50, 51 in this series. But I love the fact that an older actress is getting work in a job like this.
Yes. Oh, this has come full circle. She's Mystique.
Right, she was Mystique, the original Mystique.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
In your X-Men movie.
Yep.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, it's come full circle.
Hmm.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're at the 2 hour mark. I'm
All right.
curious, is there anything that was on your list or that you can think of that we didn't really discuss, or that you wanted to talk about?
I think we're good.
All right, excellent.
I don't
I
know. Let me look. Look at me. Look at my shelf
Yeah,
behind me.
look at the shelf. Make
Let me just
sure.
double check. Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, no. Without getting into anything else, I think we're good. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so
This
happy to
was
have you. This was a
fun.
great conversation. This was a
Hmm.
lot of fun. You've been a great guest.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
You have been. That's not sarcasm. I'm serious.
No, I'm not. I do that with my partner too.
Uh,
I don't mean to sound dismissive or whatever, but it's like sometimes it just comes out that way, and then it's like I hear it.
oh, that's
That's not
funny.
what I meant. It's just sometimes it's the way I just sound different than I feel inside
Right.
sometimes. Hmm.
It just comes out that way.
So yeah, pity my partner who has to live with me
Aw.
and can't tell what I'm really thinking.
Right.
So
Um, so okay, so we are going to go see, let's see how long she's been on. Oh, she's been on for 4 hours. She's definitely not going to be on much longer. Um, although, yeah, she's not going to be on for much longer. Let's see, how long has he been on? 2 hours. So we're going to go raid Bill Larkin music. He's a really cool guy. He parodies anything that is, you could give him a song title and a thing, and he will go ahead and make a parody song out of it. It's crazy. So we're gonna go ahead and raid him. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is the really horrible raid call. Um,
okay.
I'd
Thank you
appreciate it if
everybody
we
in chat
copy
for
this.
being here.
Yeah,
It's
thank
nice
you
to
guys.
Dark Void. Good to see you. Infozar, it's always a pleasure to see you, man. I see Galvus the Green. Thanks. And somebody
Yes.
else
See.
bailed out. Elliot Edward, thank you for being here.
Yeah, and CS Bond, welcome in, and well, I don't know how
No,
long you've
yes.
been there.
Charles, you still awake? Thanks for popping in. I'm going to assume you were lurking the whole time.
Yes, yes. All right, let's raid out. Thank you so
Okay.
much, and we'll see you next week with 17th. So it'll be Supernatural Writer.
Ooh.
Yes. So on vacation.
Ooh.
All right, rating
All
out
right.
now and stop